Home is here. December 7th, I was at church in the morning, and then we heard all these bombings.
Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, thousands of Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps.
When I got home, I was just in time to see the federal authorities arrest my father at gunpoint.
PBS Hawaii presents Voices Behind Barbed Wire, stories from Hawaii, tonight at 8:30.
On Masterpiece Mystery.
Mr. Nash is wanted in connection with the murder. I have a warrant for his arrest.
He was looking for someone right before they were killed, and then he disappeared.
Leave this alone.
How can I when you fled a murder scene?
I don't have time to explain.
Detective Phelps, I would remind you that I am the officer in charge of this investigation.
And why is that, I wonder? Orders from Daddy.
For your own safety, stay out of this.
Miss Scarlet and the Duke, the season finale on Masterpiece Mystery.
Sunday on PBS Hawaii, Home is here. Watch your favorite programs online at pbshawaii.org.
On Masterpiece.
It's ever so quiet up there without him.
Why don't you give your dad and Jenny a visit?
What's it feel like?
It's exciting, but terrifying.
Well, I can't wait to be an auntie.
I wondered if you could come and have a look at a car.
This is not good.
I haven't told him yet. I'll do it tomorrow.
What's going on?
All creatures, great and small, on Masterpiece.
Sunday on PBS Hawaii, Home is here.
You're watching PBS Hawaii, supported by viewers like you. It's not just TV, it's life. PBS Hawaii, Home is here.
Local broadcasts of Insights on PBS Hawaii are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo, and by Carl Smith Ball, providing legal services throughout Hawaii and the Pacific since 1857, making a positive difference in the communities where we live and work. The booms of illegal fireworks continue to ring out in neighborhoods across the islands. While some may think of it as harmless fun, even tradition, these fireworks have led to serious injury, even death. Last year, an illegal fireworks task force was formed to crack down on the problem. But after a new year that saw thousands of illegal fireworks light up the sky, is the task force doing enough? Tonight's live broadcast and live stream of Insights on PBS Hawaii start now.
Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Lauren Day. The start of the year brought a familiar scene to many. Thousands of illegal fireworks lighting up the sky at midnight. Aerials have long been outlawed in the islands, but it seems we see and hear more of them every year. Last year, an illegal fireworks task force was formed to crack down on the problem. But is it doing enough to make a difference? We look forward to your participation in tonight's show. You can email or call in your questions. And as always, you will find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org and on the PBS Hawaii Facebook and YouTube pages. Now to our guests in studio. Jordan Lowe is the director of the State Department of Law Enforcement. The department heads up the Illegal Fireworks Task Force. Prior to leading the department, he worked at the Honolulu Prosecutor's Office, the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the IRS. Representative David Tarnas is the chair of the State House Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs. He represents North and South Kohala on Hawaii Island. Tiana Wilbur is interim chair of the Waiʻanae Coast Neighborhood Board. She's an entrepreneur and active volunteer in her community, working with Keiki to Kupuna. And Major Mike Lambert is a 20-year HPD veteran and currently leads the Narcotics Vice Division. His previous assignments include patrol, central receiving, community outreach, and training. He has a bachelor's degree in public administration from UH West Oahu. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Definitely a hot topic. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of viewer questions this evening. Jordan, I want to start with you. Tell us a little bit about the task force and what has it accomplished so far?
Sure. So on June 7th of 2023, Governor Green signed Act 67, which formed or gave us authorization to form the Illegal Fireworks Task Force. So in August, we organized the task force with our law enforcement partners, such as the Honolulu Police Department, the Sheriff's Division, Narcotics Enforcement Division from Public Safety, AG investigators and our federal partners, such as the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and Homeland Security Investigations. So in September, we decided to look at traditionally what the problem was in terms of why there wasn't prior interdictions in the past decades. And we realized that, one of the biggest obstacles was the actual storage and disposal of fireworks, mainly because they are very hazardous to begin with. So, so we tried to tackle that problem first. The first thing we did was we provided training for all of our investigators and our officers so they could safely handle fireworks. Then secondly, we found a storage facility so we can hold the seized evidence safely. And we was able to determine how to do disposals of the fireworks, because people don't realize, you know, it is hazardous material. It's considered explosive materials, you know, and you know, there's really only 3 methods, or what we consider recommended methods, to dispose of fireworks, and you know, that's to function it as designed, which is basically igniting it, to burn it, or to countercharge, you know, based on the material.
How large is this task force, and have you found any fireworks, illegal fireworks, trying to come into the state so far?
So cumulatively, the task force probably consists at any given time, about 20 law enforcement officers. And so far for 2023 and into the beginning of 2024, we seized 147,000 pounds
wow.
of illegal fireworks.
Put that into perspective for us. Like, what, you know, can you kind of conceptualize for our viewers, like how many fireworks is that? What is that equivalent to?
Probably over 4,000 cases of fireworks is the best way. But see, fireworks come in different sizes, obviously. You know, you have the larger 100-round cakes, which might fill one case, or you might have a case that contains the 3-inch aerial shells, and there'll be like 36 to the case. So it really depends on the product and the design of the product.
Representative Tarnas, how are these illegal fireworks, can you speak to this, coming into the state of Hawaii?
Well, you know, the legislature has been trying to address this issue for years, and we're often presented with bills that would either ban consumer fireworks or focus on interdicting the illegal fireworks when they come in to the state. And as chair of the Judiciary Committee, I had to decide what's the best approach. I looked at what the experience here in City County, Honolulu. You know, 2010, they banned all fireworks except for firecrackers. It didn't seem to make a big difference. So trying to stop people from using fireworks, I didn't think was the best idea. You know, people get permits, they get their firecrackers. I figured that was okay. We gotta allow people to have some fun during those few days. So how do we intercept the illegal fireworks coming in? And so I am told that it's often in the ports coming in through ships. It's also mailed in through the Postal Service. And so we decided at the legislature that the best idea was to bring together a task force of the professionals, law enforcement professionals. And it was everybody. We all hands on deck, because these are the folks that really understand how contraband is brought into the state. And that's what this is. This is contraband. And so much as you're looking at how do you bring in other illegal products, drugs or something else, the same thing goes on here. And so that's what we did. We actually formed a task force just of the law enforcement officials. There was a move to try to get others, like from the shipping industry, included as well, but we really decided it was best just to have the law enforcement community, because they can share information, it's confidential, they have access to information that they can't share with the general public. And so I couldn't be able to fully answer your question because I don't really know. So we at the legislature decided, let's get the professionals together, form this task force, fund them, and see if they can actually make some progress. And I'd say in 3 months, they were able to intercept 147,000 pounds of fireworks is a great first start. And Now the legislature is looking at measures that would provide additional funding support to the Illegal Fireworks Task Force through the Department of Law Enforcement with Director Lowe and his team. And it also addresses some of the issues that they confronted since they were formed. They needed to get some additional authority to be able to search places where there were suspected fireworks. They needed the ability to be able to store and destroy the fireworks. We needed to authorize the Department of Law Enforcement and the counties to be able to conduct these inspections. And so there are some things that through just the 3 months of work of the task force, they found that they needed additional authority, some additional support, and so that's what we're working on at the legislature right now, is to provide that additional authority and provide that additional support. Because I was very pleased. In fact, I asked the legislators just to do an informal poll, what was this New Year's Eve like? Was there less fireworks? Was there more? Was it about the same? And overall, everyone said it was just a little bit less. Not a lot, but just a little bit less. And I said, well, that's a great trend. Let's keep going in that direction. I think it's worth it to spend the money. And it's serious money. $1.2 million would be attached to this bill to provide the additional support to the department to continue their good work.
I want to pull up some video that actually I shot over the last couple of New Year's Eves. I think our producers from behind the scenes are going to pull it up. Major Mike Lambert, once it's on the screen here, if you can take a look at it.
Sure.
I know you're already familiar with what goes on New Year's Eve, very familiar. Is it a frustrating problem to you to see, you know, the video that I shot was in the Waipahu, Waikele area. You know, some of these houses have like crazy shows that go on for hours straight. Is it a frustrating problem for HPD?
Oh, it's absolutely frustrating. And the reason why it's frustrating is that it impacts the community adversely, and we have to get the calls on it. The issue is that prior to this task force and prior to funding, we were just utilizing our regular tools and our regular resources that are very limited right now, right? We're 400 officers short. And for us, we like to prioritize things in protection of people, protection of property, and then everything else kind of falls into nuisance. Of course, fireworks can be very dangerous, but it's more of a nuisance issue in general. So for a night like that on New Year's Eve, although that is an obvious issue, and we're obviously not tackling it the way that we need to be tackling it, we are actually more worried about fight calls and people harming each other from being overly intoxicated New Year's Eve.
I'm assuming just not enough bodies in the department on New Year's Eve to handle the volume of calls that's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of remember when I was an officer in town, and we can see the fireworks, and you can kind of know that that's something that we obviously should be looking at, but we're trying to stay vigilant, and we're actually waiting for fight calls to come in, because you're talking about huge parties, people getting drunk, and again, that is our priority, is to keep people safe. And again, people can get hurt from fireworks, but on New Year's Eve night, it's the fights that we're concerned about.
Tiana, what are you hearing in the Waiʻanae community? How bad is the problem out there? And what does your community want to see?
Most often it's our kupuna being the loud boom or the house shaking. That's the most common complaint, aside from their animals, and just me personally have experienced my animal, like going off into the road and getting hit because they're stressed out from fireworks. We actually had one dog die because she had anxiety from fireworks, but that's the most common issue that we hear. And so I actually, when I was invited to this opportunity, I kind of wanted to hear more from the community, and so I posted it on social media asking the questions to hear back, like, what is their personal opinions or feelings on. So the first question was like, should we ban fireworks? And so the three options was yes, no, or we should legalize it. And of course, like in the very beginning, it was like 1% said that we should legalize it. And the majority said no, that it shouldn't be banned. And then I asked them to also leave like comments. And so some suggestions was, oh, maybe we should train people how to use them. But I feel like we don't understand what the difference between fireworks and firecrackers are, because when I continued questions like, why do you celebrate New Year's, and like, what is it a tradition? Is it a cultural thing? Do you do it just because, or because everybody else is doing, or like just for fun? And the majority said it was a tradition. But like, what was the tradition? Like, so for us culturally, right, like, because we're so mixed in, like we're mixed plate, right, like we call it. And so the Chinese culture, right, is the firecracker, and that was more traditionally like what I was used to growing up. But I wasn't very prone to go and pop fireworks, because I was the one that would probably get hurt. But so that was just kind of like the feedback. Like, they say it's a tradition, but I wonder if we can distinguish, like, what is the difference between the fireworks that we're addressing or the tradition of firecrackers, right? Like, do we understand that there is a difference, or are we deeming it as fireworks as a whole, right? So just maybe clarification on that, and then, I mean, I think this is definitely a necessary discussion with so many other topics that we're disconnected with our generations today. I think this is so vital for us to get out to our communities and really, hopefully everybody takes in and wants to gain more knowledge in, well, how can we make it safe for everybody, you know? We shouldn't have kupuna not being able to sleep at night because you want to pop fireworks all throughout the month of December and January, you know? And so I actually feel like it was a lot less in December, where it wasn't hearing it every single night. And so I was hoping that maybe they're hopefully getting more respectful in you know, everybody, their neighbors and everything. And when it was put out there, because like I follow HPD and things on social media, and when they ask, you know, if you see something, say something, or if, you know, turn in your neighbor kind of was the topic, right, before New Year's Eve. And that was another question that I asked was, would you turn in your neighbor? And the majority said no. And it's because we have to live together, right? Like, and so it's just, you know, I think that's some of the challenges that we might see. And then of course the absence of the officers that we need to fill. So yeah, hopefully that's upward.
I do want to get to our viewer questions. As you can see, I've got a lot of orange papers, a lot of comments and questions. Jordan, this question's for you from Camille. She emailed in. She's asking, since illegal fireworks are coming from China to the US or Hawaii, isn't that considered interstate commerce and subject to federal enforcement?
Yes, it is. So if fireworks coming from a foreign country, they are subject to inspection by Customs and Border Protection. Now, the fireworks itself is not illegal if it's going to a federal licensee. It is illegal if it's not going to one, or if it was declared falsely as a different kind of items. But again, you know, you need to look at what type of fireworks we're talking about, because the 1.3 G type aerial shells, the ones that you really hear the loud boom on in the sky, that's regulated by the federal government. The consumer fireworks is not regulated by the federal government. It's considered legal, and you don't need a license to import that in unless you're manufacturing the consumer fireworks. And to your point, you're absolutely correct. There's a huge difference, or a huge range of what's considered consumer fireworks. People think, if it's consumer fireworks, it's safe. That's really not true. You have your novelty fireworks that are relatively safe, the kind that you would see, you know, at retail stores that you can purchase. But then you also have the really large cakes, the 100-round cakes. That's actually classified as consumer fireworks. That's classified as 1.4 G fireworks. So there's that range in terms of, as you indicated, what is safe and what's not safe, and what requires a professional to properly ignite those type of fireworks and use that fireworks.
Major, can you speak to maybe the safety concerns when, you know, ordinary people are shooting fireworks off their homes? And I'm sure a lot of people don't think about, you know, the potential dangers that could happen.
Sure. So, I mean, every New Year's we get a handful of reported injuries, right? So that doesn't count probably the dozens of unreported injuries, burns, whatnot, to particularly our keiki that unfortunately are being taught that that's what you do on these certain events. The bigger issue, and I think one of the things that we're not talking about, is that when these large amount of fireworks are coming into our city and our state, where are they being stored? Very unlikely they're being stored in a proper environment. So we are probably one spark away from having a really bad incident within our community because they're being stored in residential areas. So I think, learning from lessons in Lahaina where we thought that would never happen in Hawaii, I can tell you right now, from the tons and tons of fireworks that are coming in, it is inevitable that we are going to have a tragedy at some point in our history.
Where are people getting these illegal fireworks from? That's another question from one of our viewers.
So predominantly they do come in from the mainland. Like Director Lowe stated, that there are a lot of places in the United States where it's legal. So what someone may do is they'll purchase it legal, they'll send it down to a dock in California, and it'll make its way here. The issue with that is because we are in an island and everything comes in by boat, the fear of of us doing these inspections could hurt, simple things, rice, toilet paper, and other things while we do these inspections. So it is a needle in a haystack. Our federal partners have been great at helping us to identify suspect containers based on their analytics and federal databases that track basically what they claim is in the container versus the actual weight of the container. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to in Hawaii is, okay, we catch it, now what do we do with it? And I think because of the Waikele incident years past where 3 individuals were killed in that explosion, I think a lot of decision makers and policy makers have a lot of fear on replaying that type of tragedy.
Representative Tarnas, Eric and Kailua is asking, how realistic is it that the flow of illegal fireworks into Hawaii via the ports can be stopped? It is not possible to search every container year-round. I'm sure Jordan could speak on that as well.
You're absolutely right. It's not possible to stop everything. But I'm heartened to see that there's such progress in just short 3 months, 150,000 or 147,000 pounds. And when we had our hearing on the bill that I was referring to, House Bill 2193, I asked the Deputy Director of the Department of Law Enforcement, well, what next? You confiscated these and you disposed of them. Are you doing investigation? He says, yes, I can't speak to all the details, but we are investigating just as we would with drug interdiction. We're finding out who buys it, where did it come from, the supply chain, and we're working to build enough evidence that we can have a successful prosecution. And so this is just the beginning. And I think that's really where we have to be, consistently putting resources toward this in order to see success. And interdiction and seeing the actual amounts of fireworks being confiscated is one. The next step is, are we seeing successful prosecutions so we stop the supply chain?
I have a question for Jordan here. Actually, a bunch of questions for you as well from various viewers. Davin is asking, has the task force checked out every Chinatown merchants and store owners for illegal fireworks? And then I have Bob from Kaneohe asking, is this task force looking for illegal fireworks only 1 to 2 weeks out of, from New Year's Eve or throughout the whole year? So maybe if you can speak to, specifically what the task force is doing.
Sure. Referencing what the representative said, we cannot inspect every container because we can't slow commerce down. That's one thing that we cannot do. But what we are doing is we use actionable intelligence to target containers and individuals who might be distributing the fireworks. This is a year-round operation, in answer to your second question. In terms of whether we're going into Chinatown or not, that depends on the circumstances and the intelligence that we receive, and then we would act on it.
So the fireworks that were found recently, do you know who they were going to or who was purchasing them? Is that confidential?
I need to decline to answer that one at this time.
But that's what you're investigating.
Absolutely.
They're investigating how it came in, who was the person who was bringing it in, where is the supply chain to get to the consumer, and that's the sort of investigation that has to take some time, because in order to get a successful prosecution, you need to get everything correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the bigger issue too, right, is that, okay, we know they're coming in, right? We don't even know if that's an actual address where it's supposed to go or an actual person. So if I was running a illegal fireworks operation, I'm not gonna say Mike Lambert and my address, right? It's gonna say Jordan Lowe, right, and it's some false address, but I'm gonna know that it's gonna be delivered to her house under his name, right? And we have to, you guys or investigators have to actually wait till I show up, right, to pick it up. And it's all these logistic challenges that we have to prove. So it's not simply like we got the container and these are actual people on the billing, right? So we have to prove that. And sometimes they will put it in like her name, send it to her house, and I'll track it on my tracker and I'll intercept it, right? So these are all these different ways that it's making it to people's, or making it into our state, and it makes it very difficult to tackle. So, you know, Director Lowe, they're doing a wonderful job running that task force. I'm encouraged by the improvements of seizures over this year over last. And I think what everybody has to do is give us a chance at this, right? Because it's been going on for 20, 30 years and everybody's like, yeah, whatever. They're just gonna say whatever they wanna say. But I'm really encouraged by this last year's seizures, and I really wanna see what happens in 2024 with the additional resources and the cooperation that's occurring at the, you know, different city, state, and federal level.
Major, I think you could speak to this viewer's email. This is Stanley. It's actually a comment more than a question, but I wanted you to speak to it anyway. Stanley says, the jerks near me have constantly set off illegal fireworks and aerial bombs almost every day since last November, and it's still continuing to do so every day. I have called 911 about twice a day, but the annoying fireworks keep going on. Sometimes we think that the police department or police dispatchers and the police are frustrated and don't go and check the area.
Well, to speak to Stanley's question, we are absolutely frustrated with it as well, but we always go check. The issue is that it's the timing of the call. So for example, when you call 911, our response time could be anywhere from, 3 to 7 minutes. And when we're coming down the street in a marked vehicle, they're not gonna light it then, right? So it's this cat and mouse game. And the issue is that for a call like that, 911, we would actually need a plainclothes unit. And we don't have as many officers as we had in the past. So to have a district that would be on call with plainclothes units to answer these 911 calls, unfortunately, is just not occurring right now. So, to Stanley, I want to apologize. I think everyone in this room deals with the same issue of that irritating neighbor. And it's just keep calling. And hopefully the timing will be right. And we'll at the very least be able to cite, and maybe if they are distributors or more engaged in fireworks than he thinks, then maybe we can go ahead and have some stiffer penalties for them.
Is there anything neighbors can do? Like, does recording, if they're on the street and recording?
Absolutely. Recordings would work. The only issue and the biggest hindrance, which Tiana spoke about, is that you would have to attest to that video, and that's where people get hesitant. It's one of those things, like even in my area, I can hear it on the back, and I know probably gonna get a bunch of negative comments, oh, you should do something, he's a cop, but I gotta live in that neighborhood, and I'm not gonna go run around the corner to try and catch my neighbor, although it upsets me. I call 911 just like everyone else, and I hope that the timing is right when the officer comes on the street, but it's a game of timing when it comes to the violators that are just popping it in front of their house.
I think this is something that maybe some of you might want to chime in on. You touched on this. Milton emailed in saying, all we need is plainclothes enforcement individuals to walk the areas that do illegal fireworks in safety protection gear to cite the individuals in action. It's as simple as that. My asthma and anxiety, also 3 dogs, suffer during these days leading up to the new year. Obviously, I think you mentioned not realistic, just with the you would need more bodies, correct?
We would definitely need more bodies, and then there's always a trade-off. So for example, New Year's Eve, 4th of July, some of the bigger celebrations, again, back to my earlier comment, is we're worried about fight calls, drunk drivers. So if we take away officers in patrol uniforms or in what we call a Class A and put them in plain clothes, it's kind of a situation where you're taking from Peter to pay Paul. And again, on our hierarchy, fireworks is considered more of a nuisance. But to his point, yes, it would work. And hopefully as our staffing improves, we can utilize those type of tactics on New Year's and other holidays.
For Director Lowe, I've got a couple more questions for you. So I'm going to try to do two at once, if that's okay. The first one's a comment, actually, from Shannon from HAWAIʻI. She says, I believe that the task force is not doing enough because the task force is made of local people and fireworks are part of the local culture. They should use dogs and military police to regulate and enforce use of illegal fireworks. And then another viewer is asking, what type of training does the department have to handle the enforcement of illegal fireworks?
So in terms of the first question, we do use explosive canines in our operations to try to detect the fireworks as it comes in, either via the parcels or sometimes with the containers. So we do that. We have a special operations sections that have explosive detection canines. And I'm sorry, and the other question?
The other question was, what type of training does the department have to handle the enforcement of illegal fireworks?
The first training is identification, so that they can tell if it's 1.3 type aerial shells or if it's 1.4 type consumer fireworks. Then the second part of the training is how to safely handle it, what kind of protective gear you have to wear. You have to make sure you don't have too much nylon on, your cell phone, your radios away, anything that causes static electricity. The type of knife that you might use to open the containers, you would need a non-sparking type blade. And it really goes on from there. The ATF has what they call certified explosive specialist training, but that's a 2-year program. And and it's pretty intensive. So normally what happens is when we do an operation of any type, we would have the investigators that had the basic training, but then we would bring in either a certified explosive specialist or an ATF special agent bomb technician, an FBI special agent bomb technician, HPD's bomb squad. It's a multi-effort, so that mainly we make sure our people also don't get hurt like what happened in Waikele.
And I think we should point out too that the Department of Law Enforcement is a brand new agency. They're just standing up, and they're doing a great job. I commend the director and his team, but they're trying to build up their capacity. They're trying to hire people. They're trying to actually increase the pay for their recruits, because it's tough to compete with the police department, who can pay more. And so and the police department is trying to get more people hired. We're all running short. It's a tough challenge to build up the capacity to be able to do this work. It's very important work. I think we're all committed to it. But we've just got some fundamental challenges in order to have the capacity to do this kind of work.
Tiana, I want to direct this question to both you and then as well as Representative Tarnas here. Ruth from the Big Island, from Pahala, is asking, I live in a very rural area, and around New Year's these bombs go off. They are so loud and seem like they are getting louder every year. What can be done about it? No, Representative, you're from the Big Island, so I'd like you to address the question, but then Tiana as well, out in Waiʻanae, a rural area as well, what are you telling your community about what they can do?
Well, I live in a rural area. I represent a very rural area of Hawaii Island, and I share her frustration that we are getting these very loud explosions that are coming in. These are illegal fireworks. These are not ones that you can get with a permit. And so really, I think that the interdiction of these illegal firework shipments that are coming in is the best thing that we can do. We're not going to see a change right away. It takes some time for us to reduce the supply. That it's going to be reducing the flow of illegal fireworks coming in, but there's obviously a bunch that are stored that are being sold bit by bit. So it's going to take some time for us to see the impact of this and to reduce the numbers of explosions that people are experiencing. I hear it all the time. People who have animals that are getting anxious and they're getting injured. We have a lot of ranches that have livestock. Their horses, they get frightened and they run into the fence and they get all injured. And then we, of course, have a lot of folks that have personal experience that this triggers, post-traumatic stress and that's very upsetting. And so there's a lot of health impacts across the board. So it's a critical issue. We have to address it.
Tiana, you put out that social media post, kind of getting a feel for what folks in the Waiʻanae community, have to say on this problem. What do you tell them as far as what they should do, when this is an issue for them?
Honestly, like this, because everybody's either related to somebody or, so it's like it really is a tight-knit community out there. So like when these things happen so one of the comments actually came back and was like, as much as I dislike these things, like I'm not gonna obviously turn in my uncle or neighbor or whatnot. And so they end up secluding themselves, like, because the children might have asthma or things like that. They'll just like close up all windows, doors, everything, turn on the air conditioning. And unfortunately that's what we're seeing more. But as far as, but I would actually honestly ask that whoever's utilizing these things, like, we don't need those. We don't need those loud ones. And let's not make it like, we don't want to get to the point where we just ban everything and all, So instead of us, kind of choosing our battles in the sense, right, that consumers, like, let's just utilize the ones that we are able to use that is legal for us to utilize, so that we don't have to have these, you know what I mean, these discussions, or these put us in positions where, like, we love that you're enjoying it, and I like I get to just sit at home and see it all around me, but like to really know which one it is or to see it physically, right? That's a whole nother thing for me to like be sitting there filming it. Like I wouldn't be able to even tell like which, up in the air.
I think that it's hard especially when, Hawaii, everybody's so close. Waiʻanae is a close-knit, tight-knit community. Yeah. This is questions also for you, actually, Tiana. This is Ellie and Haleiwa. It's kind of a related question. Has the neighborhood board taken a stand on the issue? Do you think pushing for tougher laws and more seizures pit neighbors against each other? That could be difficult and complicated.
There's been other areas or topics that neighbors would maybe turn in the other neighbor, and there has been retaliation or just this like animosity amongst neighbors, and so either they move away or it's just this constant fight between neighbors, and they're always calling on each other, or just, some of the stories is kind of sad, that we even get to that point, but they like there was another thought on that question.
She's asking, would pushing for tougher laws and more seizures pit neighbors against each other?
Oh, and if it ever was on our board. So it was never on our agenda because nobody's actually physically come in and actually complained about it since our new board or in the time that I've been serving on the board. But it is a topic that is frequently visited amongst community members.
Yeah. It's hard.
So we haven't actually taken a stand on it as a board.
It's hard when it's your neighbors and you don't want to ruffle the feathers. Right. Major Lambert, Richard emailed in. He's asking, who's selling this organized crime? Is it merchants, wholesalers? How are they getting it?
You name it. And again, so this really comes down to supply and demand, right? So unfortunately, there's a huge demand in Hawaii. And no matter how tough the laws get, if the demand is high enough, someone is willing to fill it. So the reality is it's coming in and it is attached to organized crime. There are just some entrepreneurs, right, that basically they don't do anything else illegal, but because of the prevalence in Hawaii and the fact that people want it, they'll bring it in and they'll take that risk. Because right now you're talking about a C felony is the highest you would get, which is only up to 5 years in prison. And I think most people realize that you're probably just going to get probation, right? So if I'm making 100 grand a year or 200 grand a year, knowing that perhaps it's very unlikely I'll get caught, now moving forward that's going to change, but historically unlikely to get caught, they'll roll that dice. So you got wholesalers, you got people that are bringing it in, unfortunately with drugs, because some of our distributors we were able to tie back to drugs. So for example, we didn't have as many seizures as weight-wise as the DLE. A lot of our seizures on Honolulu PD were attached to drug cases. So we know that the fireworks would probably be, once it goes to trial, be minimal. So what we try to do is we try to get them on the drug charges, which have a little bit more teeth. So for us, we're trying to be a little more strategic because we're shy on resources, and I'm glad that the Department of Law Enforcement is getting the volume stuff, and then we're trying to see if we can just be a little more strategic to get offenses on people that perhaps will actually end up with some jail time.
We're also, I mean, if we can reduce the supply, the price is going to go up. I'm amazed that people spend thousands and tens of thousands of dollars.
I was going to ask, how much are people spending?
It's so expensive already. And I think, Major, you were telling us that, you know, the price in California for a certain type of firework might be $5, but out here it's $80 because it's illegal. If we can increase the price, that's going to reduce the purchasing power of the individual, and because they do have to put food on the table, right? So I think that's part of the challenge. Is that right, Director?
Absolutely. And you know, earlier when you talked about the fireworks that had loud explosions, you know, those are the really problematic fireworks. Those are display fireworks, and they range from a 3-inch shell. I've seen it up to a 12-inch shell.
Wow.
You know, so and they are coming in. You know, now with those particular type of fireworks, though, those are regulated by the federal government. If you import or distribute those type of fireworks without a license, it's a 10-year felony. To even use the fireworks, you need a use permit, which is a misdemeanor even under federal law, which you're subject to imprisonment up to a year. And again, and you're right, what the approach that we're trying to take is to catch the importers and the distributors and to limit the supply that's out there. So it's harder for the end users to actually, you know, be able to afford or purchase the fireworks. And, you know, and as the Major said, when they work on cases where you're more toward the retail distributor, that helps us because they might be able to identify who the wholesalers are and who the importers are. And we look at all of that.
This kind of is a good segue to this question. Moses in Kalihi, this is for Representative Tarnas, is asking, even if someone is arrested for setting off illegal fireworks, the penalties are weak, not enough of a deterrent. Why can't our lawmakers make the laws tougher?
You know, I think that we do have tough laws if the judges decide to use them. And I think that's part of it. You know, we give the judges discretion to be able to choose what's the best penalty for the individual. And I think, as the director said, some of these very large fireworks, they come with you know, significant penalties that they can be levied on them. So I think I'm not interested in increasing penalties if they're not going to be used by the judges. And you can speak to that, Director. I mean, because I think there's a lot of penalties that are out there that are very severe, but often they're not used by judges, and there's reasons for it.
Sure, because that obviously it gives the judge latitude, you know, based on the pre-sentence report on, you know, what kind of offender it is that's distributing the fireworks, you know. And when you look at even the federal statutes, it comes with up to 10 years. But it also comes with a $100,000 fine, if not up to $250,000 fine. So the penalties are there, and they're severe, you know. But then everything goes back to the actual criminal case itself, how it was perfected, what volume were they distributing, did they have a prior history? Again, if they're tied into drugs, because we you know, even in our investigations, in prior investigations, we know that drug dealers are also bringing in fireworks because it's a way to make money, you know, and they realize that potentially the penalties are less because if you bring in fireworks, there's no, they call it min-man, you know, minimum mandatory sentence, whereas in drugs there are based on the volume that you bring in. So they're doing a risk analysis themselves on what kind of criminal activity they want to partake in.
So they're doing both?
Some of them are doing both.
Wow. Yeah. This question kind of ties into what Tiana what we were talking about just a little bit ago, but I think Major Lambert, that you might be able to address this. Some folks have been threatened if they give any information to authorities regarding offenders. For example, I'm going to burn your house down. Tiana, you kind of mentioned neighbors being, you know, very cautious about wanting to rat each other out. This viewer is asking, so what should people do in that case if they get
it's actually against the law. It's called intimidating a witness. I believe it's a C felony. So, and then I'm sure there could be some enhancements depending on the circumstances. So you do have protection, and I think what people don't realize is that a lot of times these guys, they're just bullies, right? They're mad that you ratted on them or whatnot, but you do have protections under the Hawaii Vice statutes. If you report a crime and now you're being retaliated against, you do have an additional protection, but you gotta let us know, right? If we don't know, we can't go ahead and add on that additional charge. And I believe intimidating a witness is one of the things that actually judicial does take to heart because they don't want to have people being discouraged from reporting crime.
I have a viewer comment that I actually would love to get everybody, we'll go around the circle here. I'd love to get everybody's thoughts on this. And the comment is, give it up already. Suppressing fireworks is a lost cause.
I guess my response would be, what do you tell the parent of the child that got hurt with fireworks? What do you tell the homeowner that didn't set off any fireworks, but a stray aerial round hit their roof and caused the fire? How do you explain brush fires where you find fireworks at the scene, at the ignition scene? What do you tell those people? And what do you tell the survivors of an individual that might have passed because of a fireworks incident? That would be my comments on that.
Tiana, what about for you from the neighborhood perspective?
I know they would be, there would be a lot that wouldn't be too thrilled with it not being able to, just because they continuously will always, like as a community, will always harp on the tradition, right? Like, well, what are we gonna do for New Year's, or right? But I feel like traditions, we can always make new traditions and create, you know, something individually for our own families on what it is, and positive things, right? So that we can keep crime off of our streets. And obviously that is a part of criminal things that we are seeing in today, you know, like just in our community alone, you know, we've been facing a lot of, you know, crime and everything. And so for the community, I think we're collectively at a point of like, well, how can we take back our community, or, you know, like what can be done as community members in us taking responsibility in lessening crime in our community. So obviously it would be for us to get more involved with legislative matters, with law enforcement, you know, like how can we collaboratively work together even as community members, because it does start from the community level. I mean, obviously concerns has come up, you know, and so you guys are also now taking action, or have been trying to take action. So I think as community members, our participation is very important.
I agree. Testimony makes a big difference at the legislature. And I would say that I agree. People want to use fireworks, but and that's why I wasn't going to support a total ban on consumer fireworks, which was a bill that we considered at the legislature. I really think that the best way for us to deal with the big problems is to reduce the illegal fireworks that are coming into the state. And that's why I've been advocating for the Illegal Fireworks Task Force, giving the additional resources that they need, and letting them do their job. They're professionals. This is tough investigative work, and I think it's going to pay off. And I think that's really what our best approach is, because people want to have fun. They like to do this. This is tradition, you know, so I'm okay. But we just have to get rid of those really dangerous illegal fireworks and these loud explosive ones that are not allowed. So let's stop them from coming in the state.
Major, do you feel from the HPD perspective so overwhelmed that this is a lost cause issue?
No, I mean, you don't want a law enforcement agency that can never be defeated, right? So definitely we're not doing a good job. Anybody who's on the island December 31st, it's obvious that it's still beyond our control. but giving up is not an option because we fight with drugs, right? You could say, oh, just give it up on the drugs, give it up on the game rooms, but your law enforcement agency here, Honolulu Police Department and all others, we are not going to quit. If it's illegal, we're going to just keep working at it until we figure it out. Again, to the caller's point, 20, 30 years, yeah, give it up, I get it. But you have different leadership now, you have different rules, different support systems. So giving up, I'm just going to say, is just not an option.
Yeah. Juan from Kapolei, I'll throw this out there and then any of you can choose to answer. It does not seem like fireworks can realistically be regulated. Why not just legalize all fireworks for New Year's Eve only? Then at least the state could collect some tax revenue off the sales and we could regulate where they are coming from.
I think the issue there, again, comes back to a safety issue. There's different types of fireworks out there. I mean, if you're talking only about novelty fireworks, and then at what point does it not become a novelty fireworks? And now you're looking at other consumer fireworks that weighs 80 pounds, that has a 100-round cake, which are very, very dangerous when not used properly. Mm-hmm. And then you take even further to the illegal area of the shells, the mortar shells. So legalizing it for one day, I don't think would solve the problem. The criminal element is still going to gain financially, from illegal fireworks throughout the whole year. And then people are still going to get hurt. Mm-hmm. And that's what law enforcement really is all about, is to protect the community from getting hurt.
I asked at the legislative hearing, can you give us data on what causes the wildfires or the structure fires or the injuries? Is it the consumer fireworks or is it the illegal fireworks? And the data is not well tabulated to be able to actually identify that. But from my understanding and from anecdotal evidence, it's the illegal fireworks that are causing the brush fires and the significant injuries that are occurring. So again, I really think that that should be our focus, stopping the flow of illegal fireworks coming into the state.
That kind of leads to this Facebook question that was written in. If a building is burned because of an illegal firework, who pays? If someone is injured or killed due to an illegal firework, who pays?
Well, if you know who shot that illegal fireworks that got into a house and burned, you've got to show the evidence. And Major, you can talk about, what kind of evidence do you need in order to have a case that can be prosecuted?
Right. So you have arson and other charges. But really, you'd have to know where it came from. And of course, there would be civil. I'm assuming that somebody would sue the individual that lit it. But it doesn't, that's kind of after the fact, if hopefully nobody got hurt in that. So you could, if somebody did shoot an illegal firework and you were able to say who it was, they could be held responsible.
Mm-hmm. Renee from Honolulu is asking, are people looking at the environmental impact of physical firework debris left after all the fireworks if it's not cleaned up? This can potentially go into soil, storm drains, and possibly into the ocean.
Well, as an environmental planner, I know that is having significant environmental impact. It gets into this runoff into the streams, and it causes problems. And so that's another negative impact on our community from illegal fireworks, is that we're seeing debris, the air quality. Good heavens, you look out there during the New Year's Eve, it looks like a war zone. The air quality is so terrible, and that people with asthma, people who have respiratory problems, it's a significant environmental health issue. Absolutely, I agree.
Major, what happens after New Year's? Right now, do these people use up all their fireworks, or are these fireworks just sitting in their house, and is that a safety concern?
Probably both, but for me, definitely there is a vast majority of fireworks that went unsold or did not get fired off, and they are hazardous to our community. I mean, the reality is, I'm sure there's going to be the people that are watching like, yeah, whatever, but I'm telling you right now, if you got about even 10 or 15 pounds of fireworks that aren't being stored correctly, you could probably set off, definitely your house fire, if not your neighborhood fire. So for me, that is the concern. And, to the earlier question about if we just allow it for one day, it would make it impossible for us to regulate it the rest of the year, because everybody says, oh, I'm waiting for my New Year's Day. I'm holding on for New Year's Day. So as well-intended as that idea is, it would make it impossible for us to enforce throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. Jordan Prescott emailed in, is the ATF, or how much is the ATF involved in this subject of fireworks? I would think they would be the initial lead investigators.
So the ATF, they are a partner in this task force. They've been very helpful with us. They would get involved when it is 1.3G display type fireworks violations. Mm-hmm. And again, those are the larger aerial shells.
I think isn't that part of the illegal fireworks task force, is that you have federal, state, and county officials who are involved with it, so that you would be able to have those good lines of communication to figure out, well, how do we approach this? And we've got this information that you need to be involved from the federal side. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Not only is it ATF, we work with Customs and Border Protection, we work with Homeland Security investigations. We have regular conversations with the United States Attorney's Office to discuss the type of cases or violations that we have. And it is ongoing. And the FBI also participates in this, because you're dealing with explosive materials that that can be diverted for other use.
Jordan, we just have a couple minutes left. What would you like to tell the public about how hard the task force is working and your goals for the future here in Hawaii?
So right now the task force consists of actually dedicated investigators and police officers from different sections. They're all willing to give that time, extra time, to work on this task force, but they still have their other duties to perform. So obviously we're going to thank all of our partners, and our investigators, and we're going to continue on. As the Major said, this year you might not see too much of a difference, but if you give us time the following years, and with support of the representative in the legislature and the community, you will see a difference in the future.
Major, I just have 1 minute left.
Sure.
I would like to give you the last word. Anything you'd like to say to the public about this topic?
We got to get past not trying to kind of not turn in your neighbor, but definitely if you know somebody who's distributing, we need to know who those people are, right? There's a lot of illegal money that they're pumping into the community, and definitely it is a huge safety risk to store a large amount of fireworks. So, it's one thing to turn in your neighbor for popping, but if your neighbor is distributing, I think that's a much different issue, and I really would like them to call and give us those tips.
At the end of the day, HPD's goal, you mentioned this earlier, keeping the public safe, right?
Absolutely. So we want to keep everyone safe. And again, there's a huge difference between someone who pops, in my book, and those that distribute. So for me, in my role, I want to catch distributors.
Thank you all so much for taking the time to be on the panel tonight. I also want to thank our viewers for writing in, calling in all of our questions. Here in studio, we had Jordan Lowe from the Department of Law Enforcement, Tiana Wilbur from the Waiʻanae Coast Neighborhood Board, Representative David Tarnas, and Major Mike Lambert. Thank you again so much for your time this evening. Next week on Insights, are we doing enough to prevent wildfires? It's been 6 months since the devastating fires on Maui. So what's happened since then to address the potential wildfire threats across the state? Please join us then. I'm Lauren Day for Insights on PBS Hawaii. Have a great night.
Local broadcasts of Insights on PBS Hawaii are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo, and by Carl Smith Ball, providing legal services throughout Hawaii and the Pacific since 1857, making a positive difference in the communities where we live.